Hi, my name is Vanessa Brower, and I am the GT Pullout Program teacher at LBJ Elementary in Odessa, Texas. I work for Ector County Independent School District, and this session is to explain and unveil to you ways to use Minecraft Education Edition with your GT students. First of all, let me give you a little background about myself. I have taught for 23 years, and 20 of those, the last 20 years, have been spent in the GT Pullout Program classroom. I have been to Confertute once in person. Very excited to be a part of this, and it was an honor and a pleasure to be able to join you guys for sessions this summer. I just want to talk to you about the program that I use with my students. If you're familiar with GT programs and pullout programs, you understand that it's all about producing a product and then presenting it to an appropriate audience. That's the gist of what GT education is. We are taking these students above and beyond their normal classroom experiences. They are getting into things that they want to learn about, and that shows their passion. And it also allows them to understand how to become a lifelong learner and not to rely on teachers to give them all of their assignments, to thirst for knowledge, as Dr. Kaplan says. I've studied Dr. Kaplan with my team at ECISD for the past 20 years. We have sat at her feet and listened to every single tidbit that we could ever glean from her. And I do remember back probably 2 or 3 years ago when I did get to go to Confertute in person. She was at a session. Of course, every time she offers a session, I go to the ones I haven't heard before. Sometimes I repeat them if I want to. And she gave me permission during that session, not just me, but everyone, permission to dabble. And that means to me that whatever's interesting to me, if I show my students that that's interesting to me, they'll understand how to develop a passion and to follow pursuit, even when you don't have someone leading you. And so that's something that it floored me that I would have permission from one of the top educators in the world to dabble with my students. I get a little misty-eyed because that really gave me permission to go and do amazing things that I was afraid to do as a classroom teacher, because no one really does that. We're very focused on standardized testing in education, and it's difficult to find time or resources to get out there and really open up a new book that no one's opened before. So when Dr. Kaplan said dabble, I took that at face value and I dabbled. And so I want to share with you how I did that, and if there is anything that you can glean from it, any tidbit or resource that you want to use, feel free. Or if nothing else, just sit back and listen to a fun story of the last 6 years of blood, sweat, and tears in my career. So I welcome you, and I hope that you get a lot out of this. If nothing else, inspiration to go and dabble. Dr. Kaplan gave us permission. Okay, I'm back, and I would like to move forward. Why did I choose Minecraft Education Edition? Well, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really choose that. That is not something that a 30-something veteran teacher, normally just jumps right into. But I will say that when I moved to my second GT campus, LBJ, it had a completely different clientele, as you might say, than my former campus had. My former campus, most of the students came from poverty. They did not have internet in their homes. They did not have computers, and I had to teach them everything about computers because they didn't know a thing when they came to me. And we built that culture. We used blogging, and we did really have a lot of great programs that we used. When I moved to LBJ, these students they were digital natives. They had been using iPads and computers not every child, but many of them, probably say about 80% of them had been using computers since babyhood, or at least early elementary. A lot of them had older siblings that had their own YouTube channels and were gamers. And so there was already a culture there of electronics, of technology, and being fluent in those languages, which I do consider technology a language. And I also, side note, I think that's why so many people who did not grow up as digital natives have trouble with it, is because they're in the age range of brain development where it's difficult for people to learn to speak a new language, and technology, in my opinion, is, like I said, a language. So anyway, I was in this new campus. My students were very heavy into gaming. I had a lot of little boys who were very intelligent. They had their own gaming systems. Their parents had bought them, and that's really all they wanted to do. It was very difficult to engage them in talking about the Middle Ages and the ancient Greeks and, those civilizations and cultures, because really it didn't connect with anything that they were learning, with the exception of some of the Warcraft that they were playing on these video games. And so it was difficult. It was very difficult to engage them in these projects. Everything that I did with them had to be hands-on science, or they really weren't there for it. I could not convince them to write. They didn't have a background in what we were learning, so they didn't really have anything to say about it. They might know something from a video game they played, or a book they read once, or a movie they watched. But as far as doing any kind of research, it was difficult. I will be honest, it was a big challenge. And I think that's a challenge a lot of teachers have these days, is students do not want to research. They just want to watch videos. And although I will say that watching videos is a type of research, when it comes to writing something down about what you learned, that's the hard part. And recording something and showing that you took notes or you understand, that is difficult. And it's hard to give feedback on what's in someone else's head if they don't write it down or show it to you in some way. So that's a difficulty that a lot of teachers face. Most of them do. But I was really feeling it hard. The only time I could really reach my students was when we could find a way to sneak into the computer lab. And I say that reluctantly because my former campus had a giant brand new computer lab, and we were in there every day at 8 o'clock in the morning every time I had my students. And by the way, I do keep my students for a full day for GT services, 1 day a week, and it usually is grouped by grade level. Some grade levels have too few students to warrant an entire class, so we combine those grade levels. So usually first and second grade gets combined. Fifth grade is always huge because at that point they've had 5 or 6 years to apply and get in. But it just depends on the student, really. But in my old campus, we had access whenever we wanted it. Very few teachers use the computer lab because, again, the students just had no background in computers, so you really had to start at scratch. So I got a lot more time in the computer lab with those students at my former campus, but the new campus, their computer lab was older, and it was not fancy and pretty, and it was kind of clunky, and the kids were disrespectful to the machines because these machines were not as nice as the ones they had at home. Unfortunately, there was a culture of bullying and not caring about the equipment that you're around. So you would just disrespect everyone and everything around you. That was hard for me because my former campus had been all about respect and power, each person having their own power and not taking each other's power from each other. It was a learning process for me to go to this new culture. And so I watched my students and I thought, these kids, I have got to get through with them, especially the older boys. It's just so hard. And so we were about to do a castle architecture project where they built a castle to scale based on research we did together as a class. And one of them was especially reluctant. And so I said, you talk about Minecraft so much. But have you ever thought that maybe you could do your project in Minecraft? And it was like a light went on in not just his head, but every boy in the room was like, what? And so, of course, they had all these gaming systems that they were recording each other and sending each other videos of themselves playing the game. And I said, well, why don't you do your project and give us a tour of your castle in Minecraft? And I mean, some people might think, why did I open my big mouth? But I really am so glad that I had that, brain strike all of a sudden, like I was struck by lightning. He went home, and in 2 weeks, he came back and he said, you gave a minimum of 2 to 4 hours for this project, this castle project to be done. It's going to take me 40 hours or more to finish this castle project. And I said, well, is that a problem? Do you want to go back and do, the paper model or, hands-on model? And he was like, no way, I'm having a blast. This is like the time of my life. I can't believe I have a teacher who wants me to play Minecraft. And so, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, wow, this kid hasn't put 40 hours into an entire grade level worth of study, much less a project. Okay, so to the slide on the background, I want to go ahead and address these bullets. Minecraft became a part of the community of our classroom, and I think now a lot more educational gurus have begun to use the term culture, and that's exactly what it is. It is a culture, and our classroom has adopted that culture. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of people would balk at that and say, oh my gosh, I could never do that. But it is brilliant to me, and I love the way that it has transformed my students into not just kids who go to a school and, abuse things and bully people. They have changed into students that are there to learn. They know that they're going to produce something as a result of what they're learning. And the things that they come to school and learn in my room, they're able to go home and use that. We're learning skills beyond Minecraft that, yes, that's something that we use to build with, and something that we, began as just a tool to make a project, but it's turned into a way of life because it has built a sense of community. And I'm going to give you some examples. At the beginning, some of the students came in and they were just really good at it already. I had no idea what it was, and I got it on my phone first, which I recommend doing it that way if you're going to start. Get Minecraft PE. It is the phone version. Get on your iPhone. Get that and just play with it. Make sure that you involve some kids that know about it, because they'll teach you everything. That's what happened to me. I had a couple of boys a few years after that first initial project. We got a grant to get it for our classroom, and a couple of boys from my class came for our summer camp, and we used the program, and they pretty much guided me through the ins and outs of what to do. And at that point, it was kind of an older, clunkier version. You had to run a server and you had a dedicated computer to the server, and it was hard to play on the same computer that you were running a server on because it was an entire different program than the actual Minecraft game. So that was I learned so much from doing that. And these sixth grade boys helped me figure out what to do, because I didn't even know what a server was when I first started. So that was really amazing, the way that worked. And then all the kids in the class during that summer camp, not every single child, but most of them had already played, so they could help me figure out what the heck I was doing. And it was really that. I was dabbling, that's for sure, Dr. Kaplan. I was dabbling. And I think that was when I realized how easy the game is as a tool to build. But also I noticed that these kids that didn't even know each other at this camp suddenly became this family. And so I noticed that aspect of it, and I grabbed onto it, and I thought, this is a good tool. But it's not just about building. It's not just about, projects and researching and showing what you know. It's about supporting each other too. It's a community, and it's also engagement. So you're engaging them not just in the game. You're not forcing, but pushing them toward part of a community. Another amazing thing as a result of using this program in my classes, in the last 5 years, gifted bilingual students have begun to be integrated into my pull-out program classes at LBJ. And this means that students who are identified gifted, but who also began life as Spanish speakers and are now English learners, are integrating into our class with us in every grade level. This is an amazing opportunity with Minecraft because as soon as they come in, the very first day, we open the program and we get into the game together and we work together on projects, and they're automatically included as part of a team. They're building together. I set them up as partners, and I will put a bilingual student with a non-bilingual student deliberately, and they automatically will find a way to communicate with each other. Now, most of my students, even bilingual, do come to class with English skills, a few, but even the ones who haven't in the past have quickly engaged with the other students. Even though they can't speak the same language, they can definitely play the game together. So this is an amazing way to integrate those two cultures into a setting. Here is an example of something that you can do with bilingual students that will really support their language acquisition. This also is really helpful for students who are learning to read, whether they're bilingual or not. There's something in the game called the inventory, and it's when you're in the creative mode of the game. You can open up the game or the game inventory, and you click on this tab that has the magnifying glass, and I can type in any word. Let's say I want a door, and I can type in the word, and every time I hover over, it tells me what type of door it is. And this is really helpful for people who are looking for a type of door that they want to use, but it's also really helpful for people who are learning how to read the word door and what that's called in English. And so they can literally go through any of these and pick whatever it is that they want to build with, and it tells them these are slabs. These are different types of slabs. And so that vocabulary practice is invaluable because these students may not have a word for, nether. I don't think nether's really a word they use very often in the world anyway, but honeycomb, they wouldn't know what honeycomb is, but when they get honeycomb and they realize what it is, now they have a word. They have that access of language. And, there are, thousands of items in Minecraft, and just a really huge amount of words and vocabulary for them to learn. And it's a great way for them to then use it in context because they're talking to their classmates about, what items they need to build with. Anyway, so this is one example of a great way to use it. Along with this access, it also allows students to have outside-the-box creativity. This is not normally something students would have access to. They wouldn't be able to build a house in real life. It would be a model. And by the way, I struggled through the years that I did not have this program with being able to accept and give feedback on projects that students would build out of paper. Dioramas are my worst enemy and my worst nightmare, and I grew to hate them. And I really feel like Minecraft brings redemption for that because it gives a better way to build. I feel like it's much better. I do realize that building those dioramas gives them tactile practice and helps build hand-eye coordination. But I feel like there are a lot of other things out there in the world that can do that for them besides making me grade 1,000 dioramas. So I would much rather listen to a Minecraft video interpretation or watch a student show their Minecraft build to me or even talk about it than to have to look at another diorama for the rest of my life. No offense if you love dioramas. I do not. But I do love this program for students. If you're worried or anxious about using Minecraft Education Edition, there is a community of support on Minecraft. And I'm going to move forward in my presentation now to show you some of those resources. They have an entire Minecraft Education Edition website. There's the link for it, but you could also just Google that, Minecraft Education Edition. It will take you straight to it. I really love the way that they have set it up. There are badges you can earn. You can have certifications. There are lesson plans, and we're going to get a little bit more into that. I'm a member of the Techy Tribe in my district, and that just means that I get training on computer programs and new technology a little bit before the rest of the teachers do. I really enjoy that. I love to roll out new things and find those. So if you see Techy Tribe on there, that's what that's about. If you're not from my district, that's the explanation. This is an example of how to get Minecraft Education Edition. First, you have to know if your computer or device can run Minecraft Education Edition. And I do know for sure that they will run on a regular PC. You can download the app. Our district has the app for every student in the district, every teacher, and they can put it on your Windows desktop. You can do it yourself, actually. Download it for Windows. You can also download it on your iPad. And recently, Chromebooks were included. Before, like last year and the years before, there was no way to play Minecraft Education Edition on a Chromebook, but now there is an app for that. And so that has opened up a whole world for us because our students have gone one-to-one in our district this year, meaning they each have their own device to take home. And whether it's an iPad or a Chromebook, they can play and work on their project. There are some apps that I think might really be interesting for you to try, especially if you're worried about students going off in the program and not doing what you want them to do, which is a problem, especially for kids who aren't aware that you have boundaries. First day jitters, or a new kid comes into your class, they'll have to learn the ropes. But just in case, there is an app called Classroom Mode. It's also free with our district's subscription to Microsoft. And it helps keep a track of your students' locations in the game. So let's say you have a kid that wanders away, and sometimes that actually happens accidentally, and kids will be like scared and say, I can't figure out where I am, and they haven't quite learned how to use the coordinates, which you saw in the corner of my screen on my game. And so I can go into Classroom Mode. That's a separate app, and I can actually drag them back where I want. Or pull them back where I want. So that is a really useful tool if you have students who wander off, or if you just want to keep an eye on what they're doing. And I don't use that very often, but I really do for certain students. And I'm not going to say anything else about that because you know what I mean. There's also a really amazing connection to coding with Minecraft. Several years ago, around the same time that we started using Minecraft, they developed a new website called code.org, and they had a yearly event called the Hour of Code. The Hour of Code is actually an event developed by this website, code.org, and it is to help children and people, really anybody around the world, learn how to code. And the interesting part about it is that they use games and apps that students are already playing and familiar with, and they go in and learn how to code using the images and the parts of those games that are interesting to the kids. I wanted to show you the map. This is a map of all the countries and places in the world that are using the Hour of Code. And when we started, 5-6 years ago maybe, it was just a few dots. It's grown exponentially since then. I believe up here it says over 1 billion served, so it's amazing. I just feel like this is a really awesome way for students to connect to coding, and it uses Minecraft. Sorry to scroll quickly. You can go to this yourself if you want to. Just Google Hour of Code. Anyway, so here are the activities. I'm going to show you some of the things that I love about it. Okay, so you noticed that there are a few Minecraft games here. You can assign these in Google Classroom. You can connect the Hour of Code to your Google Classroom. Code.org does have a connection. And then you can assign these activities in Google Classroom to your classes, and it directs them straight to what you want them to do, so they don't wander through all of these literally hundreds of games and apps if you don't want them to. Now, some students, I will allow them to go and pick what they want to do, especially if they've done the Hour of Code before. But I usually start out an easy one, like the Minecraft Hour of Code. It's for second grade and up, but I do have first graders do it. I usually sit with the first and second graders and help them. Actually, every class, before we start the Hour of Code event, I do a few levels in front of them on the board so that they can see what it is. Usually by about the second level, students are bouncing in their chairs trying to get up and go to their own computer and work because they want to try it. It's that engaging, so I really recommend it. And you can start it even if you've never heard of coding. You can still sign your kids up and start it with them and learn to ride along. That's how I did it. I mean, easy peasy. If your kids are interested and you don't know the first thing about coding, go here. It will do all the work for you. Okay, so, and when you get into it, you're literally going to have to, pick which one you want to start with. And I say usually Minecraft Adventurer or Minecraft Designer. These are the basics that we started with several years ago. The newest ones are the Minecraft Voyage Aquatic and the Hero's Journey. And if you want to get into using the Code Connection app that I showed you a few minutes ago, this is the one you want. Okay, and this is probably for students who have done coding before, maybe their second or third time to do the Hour of Code. Minecraft Adventurer, it is for people who've never touched coding before and don't know what it is at all. So great for first and second graders. This Minecraft Hero's Journey actually uses this little guy. It's called an agent. He's very similar to a robot, and you code him and he goes and builds challenges for you. The great thing about it is, and I'm going to switch over to Minecraft, you can hear the background music. When you start playing Minecraft, let me get out of the game for a second and show you. When you start it, you have the option. Let me go in and start a world, or open a world. I want to play. When you open this program at the very beginning, after the student has signed in, and again, once the student has signed in, I'm going to have to get out of it for a second. Once the student has signed in, they don't have to sign in with typing in their numbers anymore. It will save their credentials. So let me add it again. You're going to open it up the first time you open it. I don't think you can close it out like I did. You'll have to open it up as if it's brand new, and it signs them in. And then right here under the word play, it says new and featured, and that's where you go, and it directly connects you to the Hour of Code choices. And so you can go in there and explore. There's all kinds of great features in there. You can start your Hour of Code right there. Also, you could just go here, like I was showing you, and it gives you a video, explains what you're supposed to be doing, and then when you finish with the video, you pick up a person, and it gives you the instructions, and then you go through these bubbles, and each bubble is a new activity. And once you've completed the activity, it moves you to the next bubble. You'll notice they turn green, like dark green. If they turn light green, it means you've played it, but you didn't finish it. If it turns dark green, that means you finished it and you are ready to move to the next level. When you finish completely, it gives you the option to personalize a certificate, and then you can print it out. Now, if you're the teacher, you can batch upload these certificates based on your Google Classroom list. So you're not going to sit here and type in every kid's name. It'll just generate those for you onto a single PDF, and then you can print that. So that's a really thank you code.org for doing that, because it's really connected quickly to what we were already doing. And I really appreciate that. So let me go back to the presentation. These are some great things. Code Connection, that little agent on the Hour of Code, that teaches you how to use this app. So when you're in there, if you have kids who are already into coding and they know, let them skip that adventure one and let them go into the one with the agent and use Code Connection, and it will pick them up very basically and take them really high. And if they've already done Code Connection in Blockly, which is a coding language that's very basic, and I recommend using it first. If they're already into Blockly and that's getting boring for them, they can switch that whole app over to Python and use Python to code. So I recommend Code Connection, especially for those, you have those little kids that are just ready for more. There you go. You got it. Okay, so what we did this year, again, it was pandemic times. Of course, everyone was in the same boat, pretty much. We started out everyone virtually, and then we went to hybrid, where some people came every other day, and then, that was about a third of the kids, and the other 2/3 stayed home still and stayed virtual. And then our district, gradually, as the months went on and on, they kept updating our schedule to a new way to go to school, a new way to attend. And we lost our full day and went to 90 minutes a week, which is a horrifying thing for a GT student and for a GT teacher to have to deal with. But we realized we were in the same boat as everyone else, so we did what we had to do. And that meant that we couldn't use our normal curriculum that we use. We write ourselves. We turned to the Texas Performance Standards projects, and I did link that here. Texas has this great website of performance standard projects for any grade level, kinder through 12, and you click in and find projects. You have your standards, your assessments, your forms, and it has all of the information you need and tells you everything, and then you pick the projects that you want to do with your students. So let's say you wanted to do intermediate tasks. Go to the tasks, and it gives you projects you can do with your students. You don't have to be from Texas or in Texas or know anything about Texas to use these. It's on the texaspsp.org website, free. Go use it. It even has Spanish versions of these lessons. And so we went in and did the one about biographies. I believe it's a 3rd grade project, and it was really helpful to have that. So the project was for students to pick a person who was important in their eyes, somebody who did something great for the world, and to read a book or biography about them, and then to create a project out of it. Well, that's almost carte blanche for a lot of people, because that doesn't tell you how to do it. That just tells you do how you want, but make sure you understand about the person, and you can teach other people about what they did. So, I love that, because it really opens it up. So, of course, we're going to include Minecraft as part of our optional in product in our group, in my class. So, another thing that I really wanted students to do, I have a lot of students who don't like to write notes, and a lot of their work had to be done alone without a parent or a teacher watching. And I know what happens when students do projects without anybody watching. I know what they look like at the end, and we don't want to go there. So I did cover mind mapping with my students, and they ended up mind mapping the chapters of their biography books. We did use the Who Was series, and they mind mapped each chapter. And I asked them to write 2 notes or 2 facts per chapter some of those have about 15 chapters in them, and use their journal to mind map those chapters. 2 facts. You can see the majority of these kids took so well to mind mapping and loved it so much that they ended up doing the first one here. She has about 8 facts per chapter. That's just one page of her chapter. This guy, he did 2. Here's one chapter with 4. I thought that was great. This guy doesn't like to write anything. Like literally, I have trouble making him do anything on paper. And he did at least 5, if not more, facts per chapter. So that really turned out well. I recommend mind mapping with students, especially those non-writers or kids who hate writing, because it makes them connect the pictures in their head to what they're learning. And that's a really great tool for bilingual students and for struggling readers to connect words to images. And so I found so much success with that we're going to mind map from now on for every project. When we're writing our details, when we're finding out answers to questions, we're making mind maps because that was such a valuable tool. And so I gave you some examples of students and their mind map pages. Anyway, those Texas Performance Standards projects are free. Go use those. Those are amazing. And then the students always design a rubric. That's something we always do. And I learned that from the Texas Performance Standards. We did a pilot when it first started. And part of it was, if you're going to present to an audience, you also need to evaluate yourself to make sure that what you're presenting to them is appropriate. And also it helps set those expectations. So before we did our project, we sat down as a class and came up with a rubric for it. And the criteria, there are 3 criteria points. The kids decided that imagination and creativity was important, that details from their research were important, and that the video that they were going to make as a product was also important. So they wanted to grade themselves on these 3 criteria. And then each one of these criteria, they decided what would earn 1 point. So all of the details here earns 1 point for imagination creativity. All of the details here earn a point for details from research. And all of the information here earns a point for their video. And so then they set the second criteria for your second point, gets a little bit more rigorous. And then the third point is almost impossible for a lot of kids because it really required them to do a lot. And I'm going to tell you, every time I've allowed students to grade themselves or design a rubric for themselves, they go high. Like their expectation of themselves is way harder than mine. Like I expected 2 details per chapter, and most kids gave me 5 to 10. So I did not ask for that. They pushed themselves. And I really think that once we started this, I mean, I don't have official research, but their progress and growth scores shot up the second semester, especially my students. I don't know if it was just a result of returning to school sort of normal. Our GT class didn't have normal time, but we had more normal expectations of them. And I think that they were just ready for that. But also, I think that this was a really great project for them because it was hard. And I think they really craved that. They craved that rigor. I always, when I make a rubric with my students, and of course, down here I did not tell you, but 0 points means you had limited progress. Our program is called the Scholars in Progress. So if you have limited progress, you're not doing a very scholarly job. 1 to 3 points, that means you did the least amount expected, and that's, you made progress, but not great. I would not accept that as meeting expectations. Actually, if you got about in the middle, that's what I expected from most students, especially, with what we were going through. So that would be 4 to 6 points. That would earn an M for meets expectations. And then if you just wanted to get fancy over here in the third column, that was on you. but that meant that you exceeded expectations. So you would earn an E if you had 7 to 9 points, and their total went there. But that can get really confusing for students. And again, I was doing this 2nd through 5th grade with these kiddos. And the 2nd graders I found did more work than some of the 5th graders. So, I mean, it was odd, but that did work out strangely. What I do is I break these down into bullet points because, yes, rubrics theoretically are the way to go. But if the kids don't have finite, specific things to check off, it is so hard for them to interpret these rubrics without that. So I went ahead and made a checklist for each point. If you wanted that point, you had to check everything off. And if there was something on here that you couldn't do because maybe the person that you were studying in your biography didn't actually do that item, then you could mark it out and replace it with something else. So that was, this student studied Wayne Gretzky. And this was this is the child that doesn't want to write, didn't want to do anything. And this was about 3 or 4 weeks in, he had already earned 4 points. So he was really motivated to do this project. I'm going to move forward. Here is the actual project in a larger way. You can see some of these criteria are pretty stout. They really did have to work really hard. You had to know about redstone in Minecraft. Now, it's not really hard to do anything with redstone. You can get a redstone torch, and that's redstone. But they had to learn a lot of vocabulary that they weren't necessarily familiar with. So it was really interesting how they were able to translate what they read in their biography to this world that they had created in Minecraft. And then here's the checklist, and it gave very specific points. You have to cover this either on a signpost in the game to tell the fact, or in your video you had to mention it, or both. So, and then we went and made our videos. And so I'm going to show you now. This is linked, hopefully, to my YouTube channel. Here's our class. And we'll go to videos, and you can see every student in the class, with the exception of 2 who stopped coming to class, stopped coming to school. We did have 2 students that just disappeared. I know that happened a lot more. I had about 38 students total. And anyway, so every student made a video with me. I interviewed them sort of to begin them, and then let them kind of ease into talking. A lot of them had never made a video before, and they were terrified to do it. But once we were finished, they all did this. They sighed a huge sigh of relief. And then they couldn't wait for it to appear on YouTube. And then they went home and watched it as many times as they possibly could before. I'm sure their parents ripped their iPads out of their hands. I don't know. I would have. But anyway, so you're welcome to go. Just Google Vanessa Brower on YouTube. Or not Google, but you go into YouTube and search Vanessa Brower. And oh my gosh, I'm so proud of this. This is something that I tried to do for years and years and years, and we just didn't have the equipment for it. But by golly, this pandemic has handed us each a device for each kid, and they had earbuds, and we were able to record. I got a new iPad as a result of some funding, and it was amazing how suddenly, yes, we were thrown off on our schedule, but it ended up so well because we got all this extra equipment that we would never have had. And I have tried to do this for years and years. We've been playing Minecraft in my classroom, using it for projects for 5 or 6 years, and I have tried every year to do this, and some glitch always happens that keeps us from finishing the video or making it, like most of the time the sound wouldn't work or something. It was always some sort of goose chase to try to get it done. And this year we were actually able to get every student that was coming to school to finish a video. So you're welcome to go through and look at those. They are so precious to me. I realize that most adults don't love to listen to kids talk about Minecraft. You probably feel that way about Minecraft the way I feel about dioramas. So here we are. But anyway, 2nd through 5th graders made these videos. I helped them by starting them off, kind of asking some questions. And then they finished up. Oh my gosh. Like the looks on their faces when they finished and they handed that rubric in, and so many of them got the top scores they could possibly get. I had very few, maybe 2 or 3 out of all 38 kids got less than the highest score to get. So I was so proud of that. And it's just amazing to me how this game has turned into something that now motivates my kids to get out there and really learn as much as possible about something so that then they can bring it into class and work with this program and just make some amazing things. Some resources that you might want to look at. These are all from the Minecraft Education Edition website. There is the Teacher Academy, and that is something that you can actually go and earn certification in Minecraft Education Edition. Listen, I'm so busy I've never had a chance to do that, but that is my next goal, is to be certified as a Minecraft teacher. I mean, I've taught it in my class for 6 years now, or 5 or 6 years now. Why am I not certified? I don't know, but I'm going to do that next. There's a community of teachers, and they connect. You can connect with other teachers, share lessons. There's a profile, kind of like, I guess, social media. I think that's just amazing. Just a great community. You can search by grade level and by subject for different lessons. These are great lessons too. I mean, these are really great. They have to do with science, math, reading, the things that they have now. I mean, we were, at the beginning, it was like trudging through mud. We didn't even have enough computers. I had to beg my district to send computers to my class because we couldn't have Wi-Fi in my portable. So the kids couldn't have iPads or laptops, and we had to beg, borrow, and steal to get enough desktop computers to run the program so the kids could all get on at the same time. So we went through so much trouble, and now there are so many resources available. It just blows my mind, because that is not how it was in the beginning. It was kind of scary in the beginning, and there were so many times when I wanted to give up because it was so hard. But I'm so glad I stuck with it. There's tech support. If you need some help, they will get back with you. You can sign in. Again, you're going to use your work account, I imagine, if your school is set it up that way. I think recently they have opened it up for homeschooling and camps. Like, say your library has a camp, they can actually buy the program now. That was not possible before this year. So, I mean, I hate to say it, but thank you, pandemic, because I think that's part of why they opened that up. There's a first lesson kit, and it has a tutorial world for your kids to join, and it shows you how to work, how to do it. Here's it has a whole toolkit for activities and how to start. And then again, free resources and training. I think that's the same button, actually. But anyway, there's so much on that website now. I don't even have time to look at it all, but it's so good. Such a rich resource. I do hope that you can get in there and get started and try it. If you just mention it to some kids, they'll do it for you. They'll get the whole thing rolling for you. I recommend doing that. Minecraft Education Edition website is linked at the top. There's a thing called Minecraft Wiki, and that is literally Wikipedia for Minecraft. You go in here and you search in anything, you type in anything you want that has to do with Minecraft, and it gives you an encyclopedic, exhaustive list of information about whatever you just typed in. I love Minecraft Wiki. There is the actual Minecraft Education Edition has a Twitter handle. It's at PlayCraftLearn on Twitter. Anytime we do a project, I tweet a picture or video, and I always tag them, and they always retweet me. Well, almost always. But I recommend that if you use Twitter, that's great. There's a thing called TextCraft, and TextCraft is actually a free Minecraft font generator, and you can go through and pick literally any type of Minecraft background and you can type in what you want it to be, what color, what size. You want it to be extra large, mega. Do you want it to be pink? And then you go in and create, and it gives you whatever it was that you wanted. And you can pick different types of fonts, and it will do that. And then you just right click and copy it. That's pretty easy. Or you can do the long way and download it and save it to your computer. There are so many little buttons and gadgets here, and there's also other types of fonts that are similar, maybe more video game-ish, less Minecraft-y. This is such a great tool, totally free. And I use, like when we have an event where students are presenting, I will use this to create the text for our parent invitations. Or if we're inviting the school board to something, I'll print it in this. And then that makes it look so cool. So there's so many ways you can do that. I recommend TextCraft, totally free. For these little icons, if you are not familiar with Remove Background, you can go in and take a screenshot of something on your Minecraft build. Go to this website, Remove Image Background. It's called remove.bg/upload. I'm sorry, it's not called that. That's its address. And you just upload whatever image it is, and it takes a background off for you. Now, you can see down here at the bottom of her foot, this is me actually, this is my foot in Minecraft. And I do change clothes quite a bit in there if I can. It doesn't always work perfectly. That's a little piece of dirt underneath her foot, so it should have taken that off. But that website is so brilliant. I love it. I use it for all my profile pictures, if it's not like an actual photo. But you can actually put photos in there too. And here is my my email, if you want to use it, vanessa.brower@ectorcountyisd.org. That's a mouthful. Please email me if you have a question, if you need support, if you want to tweet. My Twitter handle is Puffy Heart Teacher, 2 T's, and no E on teacher at the end. TEACHR, because it wouldn't fit. Anyway, Puffy Heart Teacher on Twitter, or you can just, look on Twitter, search for Vanessa Brower, and you'll find me. I have so many other things I want to tell you. I think it's such an amazing program. I'm going to use it for the rest of my career, as long as I'm possibly able to do it. Probably when I'm 80. I do have students who have bought their own VR headsets, and they say you can play Minecraft in there, and I have not done that yet. That's something that maybe in the future I will be able to do. I know there's a program called Mindways. I have not explored it yet, but you can go into one Minecraft world, copy something that you built, go into another place and 3D print it, or upload it into another world. So that's something I have not explored yet. So many great tools. I love Minecraft. I mean, I'm probably one of the only 47-year-old women in the world who would even utter that sentence. Although I do have friends who have begun to be more receptive to playing. In fact, we are friends with a family who they all play Minecraft together, including the parents. The parents have actually become pretty rabid about the game, and they love it. I think the parents love it more than we do, and we love it. We play it as a family at home too. So anyway, I've noticed as a result of this program, the little girls in my programs have begun to call themselves gamers. I get emotional when I think about that, because when I started, only little boys played. Little girls were not interested. But as a result of those connections that they make, the relationships that they make with each other in the game, they become just as knowledgeable, if not more, than the boys. And so now I have students in my class who started out not wanting to play, and I had to convince them, and I had to actually get in and play with them. I do play with my students, and they now refer to themselves as gamers, and we're not allowed to say girl gamers or gamer girls, because that is apparently it's taboo now. They are gamers. And anybody who doesn't say gamer to the girls will get an earful because that's inappropriate. And I get that. And I love it. And I'm just glad to be a part of it. So if you have any questions, again, Google me. You'll find me on the internet. You'll find me on Twitter. I would love to talk shop anytime with anybody. I appreciate that you came today, and I hope that you can find use in Minecraft Education Edition. Thanks. Have a great week.